Welcome back to Movified. I'm your host, Mark Hirschi, owner of Salmon's Moving and Storage located in beautiful Vancouver, British Columbia. Today I have a guest with us that's also Canadian, Colby Kiss with Total Moving out in Winnipeg. If you don't know where Winnipeg is, it's kind of somewhere in the center almost of Canada. It's in Manitoba, and it's a pleasure to have you on, Colby. Why don't you go ahead and kind of introduce yourself?
Yeah, awesome to be on. Thanks for having me on. Good old Winnipeg. Definitely can confirm we are in the center of Canada. And yeah, happy to be on. Happy to talk a little bit about the businesses and give our where are your listeners primarily located out of, Mark? Is it Vancouver? Or is it kind of all over Canada?
All over Canada and a lot in the States. So if you went straight down Winnipeg, where are you going to hit in the States?
The North Dakotas, the Minneapolises, I think Chicago falls under us.
All right.
I'm trying to think of everybody in the time zones now. You kind of put me on the spot there. Not a big geography guy.
All right, awesome. Well, that's horrible then for yourself being in the moving world and not knowing where you're going, but that's okay.
Give them a little more insight on some Winnipeg moving though. That's good.
Perfect. I love it. What got you? Let's start right off the bat. Like, you're a young buck that got into the moving world. You don't seem like someone that has been in it for like 20, 30, 40 years. What made you get into moving? Give us a little bit of that origin story.
Yeah, I mean, some days it feels like it. I'm sure you know what I mean. Some days it's like, oh, I feel like I've been in this for 30 years. But no, we're about 3 years in now with Total Moving. See the logo there for that company. And yeah, what started it was I was going kind of the route of becoming a firefighter. That would be like right at the start of my different careers that I looked at. Was doing industrial firefighting out of Alberta, and that kind of fell apart. That industry crumbled a little bit. I went on to train conducting, laid on and off there all the time with CN. So from that point on, while I was on a layoff, I started managing a moving company on the side. Met my co-owner, Sean Hebert. He was my landlord. He's got a few different businesses and industries that he runs in. And he had a storage facility. I know Total Storage is one of our businesses. So he had the storage facility, had this idea of bringing on a moving company or maybe doing some junk removal. And then me and him hit it off and kind of connected on the idea of starting a moving company together. And that was about 3.5 years ago. And it's taken off since.
Nice. And how many trucks do you guys run out of Winnipeg?
Currently, we are running, for Total Moving, we're running 3 to 4 daily. So not a crazy amount, but there's some other businesses that go along with that. And then we acquired another business, as I know in Globe Moving and Storage, that runs a lot more trucks and keeps both companies busy and kind of rotate the schedules a bit.
So let's kind of dive into that part. So, for yourself, you're in there, you were managing a moving company. This was Sean's smaller moving company. Was it already called Total Moving at the time?
No, sorry. I was actually managing another local moving company. They're kind of truck and trailer. Okay. At the time, they were a smaller operation. They've got great staffing. It's called Calculated Moving. Happy to push them a little bit too, but
sure.
They were smaller at the time, managed them, was on truck, helping out with some other facets of their business as well. And yeah, so there was no moving company connected with Total Storage at all. We started something brand new, just based off some of the prior knowledge I had, along with Sean's business knowledge.
Right. And Sean already had a storage facility that he owned that was called Total Storage at the time?
That's correct. Yeah, Total Storage has been around for about 13 years now.
Okay. So here he has like, and we're talking, not a typical, I have a warehouse, like in the moving world, I got a warehouse with storage vaults and everything else. We're talking like a legit, looks like a public storage setup that's like a full on storage facility.
Yeah. Just outside of Winnipeg. It's basically in Winnipeg. It's about half a kilometer outside the perimeter here. And it's 450 units. About half of them are climate controlled units for customers ranging from a 5x5 size to a 10x25 sizing. yeah, that's where this all kind of started, was the storage business he built a long time ago.
Now, when you're going in and you're like, okay, so, you obviously didn't know Sean for a long time. He is, at that time, your landlord, and you guys are trying to, you guys are friends, and you're talking about you're working at this moving company. And how does that conversation kind of start? Because, you're building these dynamics together of going, okay, you got the storage, I have some moving experience, let's make something happen. But, a lot of the times when you talk to guys that say, okay, I went in with my friend, or together we started this moving company. And then usually what ends up happening is you get a year or two down your belt and you realize, hey, this is not really working out. Yeah. Right. And I've been in that situation too in the past where, you end up finding out that, hey, I'm doing way more work than this guy. It's not very even killed. Our strengths are totally different, or we're just not in alignment every time we're having kind of a shareholders meeting or, a discussion about what to do in the business. And it ends up dissolving because you're like, look, let me just buy you out. I just want to do it on my own, and then just have employees. So how did that work with, meeting up with Sean, getting together and going, okay, like we can build this, and then the next step after?
Yeah, it's a great question. Most people don't dive into that because they worry about like that kind of questioning, because they worry about like what could come from it, or don't want to put people on the spot, but happy to go over it. It was kind of a perfect chemistry with Sean and I, because he had the storage facility, had a couple of other businesses. I never even had the idea of being an entrepreneur in my head till I met him, really. And I guess like it was capital. The guy with capital meets the person that's ambitious and ready to grind and put in the 16-hour days. And I was able to see it for that too. It wasn't like two best friends that like are matching on capital to build this business and need to work exactly 50-50 to not get angry at one another. I knew like I'll probably be taking on, let's say 70 to 80% of the workload and like the day-to-day operations that some people might get frustrated with, but it was to build on the opportunity that we had, right? So I think we had a good chemistry in that sense. He had the money, I had the work ethic, and he didn't have a lot of time. And being laid off from where I was at, I did have the time to kind of put my all into it. And I mean, credit to Sean too. Like, there was any question I've ever had, anything I need help on, he's there to provide an answer, or he can help me find one too, right? So,
and is there a setup where that Sean was, as a business an entrepreneur already? Did he go, okay, look, all right, Colby, you're a young buck getting in this field. You're not really bringing a lot to the table. I know your work ethic is going to be huge to launch and catapult this company to the next level. But, I'm only going to give you so much shares. We're going to set up like a separate entity for this. Like, how did he bring you on, in a sense, to kind of, because a lot of times, and as I involve this question, you get owners that go, man, this, and I had a conversation with one of the owners of a moving company a couple weeks ago, where he has this amazing operations manager. He's ready to like franchise it out. He's ready to like expand more, but to take him and have that operations or GM in that place and say, okay, here you go, I'm only going to give you monetary value for your work, is one thing. But there's this other step to kind of go, hey, you know what, let's give you some shares in the company. Let's build this out. Like, was that a situation that you and Sean put forth before you even started? Was that something that evolved to say, okay, you know what, Colby, you're actually killing it. Let's sit down, let's get the lawyers involved, and I want you to have a part of equity in the company for Total Moving, and then whatever you build thereafter. Like, how did that dynamic work to kind of, because you are in that situation where the guy already had the storage facility, he wants to kind of evolve into something else, make it bigger, brings you on, you bring no capital except determination. I know, right? You're like, I got like $10 in my wallet and I'm ready to go, right? So,
I had I had like no capital. You're correct. It was. I had shares right from the start in the business. I won't dive into percentages or anything, obviously, but we had figured out our splits going into it, as we have with all of our businesses that we've acquired since. Always grateful for the fact that equity was given right off the hop. And I think, to credit Sean, he knew that like my engagement would be much better in the business. But it is a big risk for him to take as well, right? Because until he works with me, he doesn't know really what my work ethic is. But I think he took a shot, and I like to think, anyways, it's worked out so far, and I'm sure he would say the same. But yeah, we're still growing. So, and with the businesses we've added, yeah, it's all the same thing. We're partners in this now, and it's been working well.
Are you a mover looking to make an impact? Discover Moving Letters AI and join the ML+Club today. Elevate your customer engagement with the personal touch of handwritten letters.
Austin Yarbrough here with Central Coast Moving and Storage. There's no way I could write these at a massive level to get massive action, to get massive results. I highly recommend using this company.
Don't miss out. Join the revolution and start making moves that matter.
Put a golden damn ticket in there with Moving Letters AI.
You know, if you look back from the 3 years that you guys have grown and you've done it quite fast, is there any tips? Like if someone asked you, like, you know, hey, this is, you know, if you went back to yourself like 3 years ago to say, let's do it this way, would you change anything? Would you like the way you've learned or kind of went into that business, or would you change some of the ideas or setups you originally have done going into the business?
I think one thing, Sean and I, we probably wouldn't work together as well if we didn't both have our mindset this aligned on this in this certain instinct. But I think we move a little too fast, if anything. Like you're alluding to, we've acquired 3 other businesses since we've started working together. And it's good, but I think we could take more time to break down procedures and policies per business and like really hammer home one at a time. But I know how both of us are mentally, and we wouldn't have as much fun if we weren't moving as fast as we are, or probably be as engaged. So I think I don't know if I'm answering the question correctly, but I think we've provided more challenges for ourselves in doing that, but it's the way we operate. So I guess what I would say to someone is dive in head first and like, don't be afraid to do it. You see, I have so many friends that want to start their own thing, maybe and they're teetering with the full-time job and having the side thing, and the side thing, they can't make the full investment. Try and tell them to do it. It's a very scary thing to do. It was easier for me because, again, laid off. I wasn't a huge fan of the job I was doing. But I would say dive in and then try and policy and procedure out, SOP, if you will, everything within the business, and then just keep growing. That's where I lack. So try and push what I lack to other people.
Which is great. Sometimes it takes success, a successful mindset to really realize, in an entrepreneur mindset, to go, okay, this is what I'm lacking. This is where I need to focus on maybe a little bit more than what I'm really good at, and then always teeter to that. You know, sometimes you have your list of to-do things for the day, and you know, items 4, 5, and 6 are like the easy things that you're like, I'm just going to achieve these. But the 1, 2, and 3, you're like, maybe they'll wait for tomorrow because I just don't want to dive into that at all.
And then it's 3 months later, and you're like, I got to find somebody that can do this for me.
Exactly.
I'm never going to do it. I guess one more thing I didn't bring up that's like kind of integral to that conversation is like, Sean had the housing for all of, like, with the storage facility. He also had offices connected to the storage facility. So right off the bat, Total Moving obviously had a place to park our trucks on the lot that was safe and secure, but also we had office space as well. So another thing that he provided and brought to the table that was very integral for the operation. And I think along with his previous experience being entrepreneurial and the space we had, that allowed us to grow a lot quicker than most companies would, I think. But yeah, some extra points there.
No, that's fine. It just makes me realize that actually you should have had Sean on the show, and Colby, you can step off for the show. I'm joking.
I'll go get him.
That's right. Now, you know, one of the biggest things that I noticed when it came down to Total Moving, Total Storage, is the branding that you guys have done. Yeah. Like, it is, to me, on par with, you know, some of the companies like Piece of Cake out in New York. You know, you look at a lot of these companies that have a really nice simplified logo, right? The branding is on par from their shirts to the trucks to the social media, but then you also add in that character, something to resonate with, right? You guys have the elephant in a lot of the posts and pictures on your websites. What made you guys A, pick an elephant, and B, like, how did that come together? Because I'm assuming 3 years ago, that look probably wasn't around as you guys are growing. Like, you kind of had to like build on a new look, a rebranding.
Yeah, I think it took, we did do a bit of a rebrand about 2 years in, and we're like, what's really going to make this, I guess when we had more dollars to put towards marketing is when we kind of did that small rebrand retouch to our already, we always kept the same logo. But we looked at our customer base. It was like, it seemed to be primarily women that were making the decisions. So we wanted a color that represents women. So we went with the kind of off pink color we have there. The elephant logo itself and the rebrand came from, actually it's a family thing for me. There's two kind of parts to it. It's a family thing for me. My grandma used to collect like elephant sculptures, and like, it was just her thing. And so I did it like in a little bit of a sense to honor her. And then the second part of it is like, if you think about an elephant, they're strong, caring, things that would matter in a situation with movers showing up to your house, to be strong, take care of your items. But yeah, the rebrand, there were some companies we emulated that we thought were doing a good job, and then we wanted to put our own spin on what we've already seen to work, I guess, like lots of people do. And we get lots of compliments on it. I think it's going well. Our trucks look fantastic. Credit to the people that wrap them. And we got to keep growing on it.
And now that you guys have made more of a household name, you guys turned around and also started acquiring other businesses that weren't, a lot of the times, and, I want to really talk on this one because there are so many moving companies out there, whether it's storage, whether it's moving companies, that are for sale every day. I was just reading this morning a post from someone going, yeah, I'm closing down my shop. That's it. It's in this area. Anybody willing to buy the domain? And, we have this Google presence and the trucks. It's all yours. Like, let's set up a plan. This happens all the time. And we really saw it a lot in 2023 as markets were changing, interest rates, the way the housing markets were going. People were hoping that 2022 was just going to keep exploding, as the years just carried on. Coming into 2024, we're halfway there and going, okay, like, our summer's picking up, right? Things are happening, but some guys just can't kick it. You guys go ahead and acquire Globe Moving and Storage, or Globe Moving. And
you got it right.
And, when this happened, you guys didn't change the name. It wasn't like, okay, yeah, sure, we're acquiring this. It's just going to be another location, let's say, for Total Moving in Winnipeg. But you acquired this other moving company. What made you guys decide to, A, purchase another moving company when you guys are a small company already, growing, and go, oh, perfect, let's jump onto this wagon, and then not also change everything to Total Moving?
Yeah, so there's a few like integral things that helped us determine to jump in and not like rebrand or affiliate the two companies right away. First off, Total Moving is independent. We'll probably always stay as an independent local type mover, just stay B2B and local around Manitoba. Secondly, like we noticed, we aligned with the previous ownership very well. Like Sean and I align well. We aligned very well with Terry Kurlicki, who was the old owner of Globe Moving and Storage. Just very much the same type of people. So it made sense from that aspect right off the hop. And then Total Moving was very like tech forward, and that's kind of another thing that propelled us and allowed us to grow. Again, I think a little faster than most companies do. And that is a big thing that Globe was lacking, being a business around for 40 years. They were very pen and paper. And not to talk bad on that. It is what it is. They built a long-standing business that has had a very reputable name. So we saw that. We saw the wisdom of the employees, the long-standing name. People trust this company. They had tons of client contracts that have been sticking with them for years and years on end. And then we saw the opportunity of adding tech to this company giving it a step forward in that regard, along with pushing more marketing initiatives and just rejuvenating a wise and great brand, if you will. And yeah,
so with Globe, obviously, you're taking a moving company that's a bit older. They probably don't have the CRM system that you're using.
Yeah.
They have a whole different setup. They have their own, I don't know exactly what you purchased when you took over that company, but, sometimes they'll have somebody that's in the office doing their admin stuff. You also have maybe another manager that's there to handle the operations side of things. And how does that look like when you go, okay, guys, like we're going to have to take our CRM system and we're going to integrate it on here? Was that like a blend to say, hey, let's have like just two branches on our CRM system, one that's basically Globe, one that's Total Moving? Did you just use their system and say, look, we got to keep things separate? Because, the elephant, funny enough, the elephant in the room is that Globe is also an agent for Atlas Van Lines. So going to that next step, you have Total Moving, which is a smaller B2B, local moving company. Now you're taking on another company, but they're also affiliated with a van line. So that's a whole other can of worms to learn, to understand tariffs, pricing. You're going everything by weight. They have their own CRM system, called AtlasNet. It's a whole different ballgame. So what did that look like to incorporate and amalgamate like these two companies to keep them separate, but also have technology steer at the forefront?
Yeah, I've got a little smile on the whole time because it hasn't been easy in the slightest.
I know, that's why I'm laughing. I'm laughing when you're like smirking because I'm like thinking the same thing. Like it's not easy. I know.
Yeah, probably still have these bags under my eyes from that, from dealing and figuring all that out. I don't know. I think we didn't expect it to be an easy transition by any means, but credit to not only is it Total Moving and like the two separate entities of Total Moving and Globe Winnipeg, but there's also a Globe brand in as well. So we took on a lot. Like we took on 20 office staff, if you will, between the two different locations, and obviously 20 office staff mean even more movers. So yeah, it hasn't been easy, but our staff have really come around, and like it's never easy to take staff that have been doing something for 40 years straight one way, basically, right? Or with very minor changes, and get them to use a CRM that they never used before. Start speaking to them about like Google LSAs, Google ads that have never really been ran proper before. They just didn't really necessarily get what we were doing, but I think they're now starting to see leads generate from those different marketing strategies, see how things can become easier with the CRM. We're not using it perfect yet. But when it comes to the separation of companies too, I know you had mentioned in there, like there's no alignment of the CRMs through Total Moving and Globe. The companies may help each other on like a local level, but there's certainly the sales staff can talk back and forth. And they're like, oh, do you have an opening this day to take on a local job? Yes, that happens, but there's no alignment between the two different companies in regards to the CRM because we just haven't done that. Maybe one day we align the two companies and something like that works, but It's not really on our board yet to do that.
Mover Marketing AI is changing the game for moving companies with their innovative digital marketing solutions. I've been working with them on my SEO and website, and the results are incredible. My online presence has improved, making my site both visually appealing and highly visible to potential customers. But that's not all they do. Mover Marketing AI offers a full range of services, from engaging social media management to robust branding, advertising, and public relations. They help you build a strong, trustworthy brand. If you're ready to elevate your moving business, I highly recommend Mover Marketing AI. They've been a game changer for me, and they can be for you too. Thanks to Mover Marketing AI for sponsoring this episode and for their support. And a fun twist, this isn't actually me speaking. It's a digital replication of my voice using AI. Pretty cool, right? Now let's get on with the podcast.
Now, Globe, like you said before, I think they have a couple locations, do they not?
Yeah, Winnipeg and Brandon. Sorry, that's Brandon.
Okay, so they just have those two locations. There's nothing else across Canada, just those two.
Just those two, yeah.
Okay, and you guys purchased the whole company outright for Winnipeg and Brandon?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, and how many trucks do they have?
In Brandon or just in general between the two?
In general, between the two.
Yeah, in Winnipeg, on a good day, we're running somewhere between 6 to 8. That's just 5 tons. And then in Brandon, we're running 2 to 3. I think they have 3 going. It's June right now, so we typically have about 10 units altogether between the two cities running. And then there's our 53 footers and long haul wagons there that are pretty much going nonstop. And there's about 2 or 3 of those going daily. So quite a few assets. And then you add on total movings too. We took on a lot with the pickup of this business.
Yeah, totally. So you guys have the storage facility, you have total moving, you have Globe. What else is going on?
Yeah, great question. So we also are rebranding another business. We bought a portable storage company. This was Sean and I's first acquisition before Globe about a year and a half ago now, that we added on to Total Moving. And that would be, it was called Easy Store initially. So 12 and 16 foot portable storage units. We got about 60 of those.
Those collapsible ones that like flatten down when you get them or something and you build them up?
They are, yeah, they are. Yeah, it's a pretty neat business. And then with that, just recently I don't even think it's been 2 months. A month ago, maybe we added a dump bin business or disposal bin business, if you will.
Okay.
So now that was called Vericon, and we're going to align those two brands together under a title of Prairie Containers, and we're going to look to do even more resale of portable units, resale of disposable bins, and then we hope to get into like the custom office unit game as well. So whether that's trailers that can be rolled from site to site, or things that are fixed into the ground, or even like custom portable units with windows that you'll see at like an amusement park or something like that. Like we kind of get into that game.
Now, some people say, Colby, you guys are in way over your head. I mean, I personally love it. I think it's always great, and I think it's ambitious. But I also think, there also are those naysayers out there, or the ones that are looking at it going, okay, but you have Globe that's running, right, doing long haul, and it is kind of like it has a little bit more of a larger expansion part, but is working. Like it works. It can do your long haul stuff. It's great. You have Total Moving that's doing your local B2B. You have the storage facilities, everything else, and you're separating and you're going into like mobile storage and container storage. But what does that look like for as a business model? Because you have such a strong brand with Total Moving that Total Moving to me, when I look at it from the outside, could be franchise expanded, go across Canada, take it, go for it, run with it. But then I feel as though with what you're doing is you have all these small little businesses, and not even small, but you have these successful businesses, that are working. What does that look like in a sense of expansion? Does it all just kind of work? Okay, great. We got this, we got that. And I'm just happy with where it's situated, and we're going to keep it, in the prairies. We're going to keep it, mid to East Coast, or even a little bit more onto West Coast Canada. What does that look like? What does the next 5 years look like for Sean and Colby in those, let's say, 3 business avenues you guys are going for?
Yeah, it's a great question. I wouldn't say we've sat down and had, I think what I brought up earlier, like where we lack on kind of the policy and procedure side of our businesses, and what we really want to develop there. We're bringing on some key staffs, I guess not staff, but key people into our situations here between the businesses to like assist us with that. So that would be priority number 1. And then from there, we'll be able to see, okay, now this is easily repeatable. Our procedures are broken down. We can really look into those future goals. I don't know if either of us have so hard to say, because you never know what the next big step is, or where you're going to go. At least we don't, because we lots of time make it up on the spot. But we've never had the talk of like, oh, let's franchise this or let's combine the two companies just yet. I think we want to get everything settled down now that we've made a few acquisitions, and we're kind of like, we had a few goals as to maybe wanting to add on a Globe, which we did, and add to the Prairie Container side of things. Now we want to make sure they're all running efficiently. Then maybe.
Well, that's what I mean. That's what I'm looking at, right? I'm looking at, the fact that in the last, let's say 3 to 4 years, you guys have blown up in a sense of going, okay, we got this running full-fledged, we got this running, we got that running. In 2 years, are you, a serial entrepreneur that just kind of gets bored in that one side? You're like, okay, cool. Like, what's next? Like, what's next on the plate, right? Like, what are we investing on here? And, what are we doing on here? And the next thing you know, you got about 10 different companies. One's bound to fail. Or is it bound to fail? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's that thought process. And that's what we're, where you started talking about and leaning on is going, okay, we have it. We have these things set up. And, the next thing in line is to have the key people that are able to manage it and run it so that you are not getting more bigs in your eyes and getting, and you're going to be bald like me going, oh my God, like I'm taking on way too much.
Yeah, I think we do have the key people. And I think it's now about making it more efficient for them too. So I think we'd be doing a disrespect to the people we have in certain places that we do consider those key people if we didn't say, okay, let's designate some of Colby's time, maybe a bit of Sean's time to finding avenues to make their lives easier. And then from there, we see where it goes after. We don't really have this big drawn out plan for 5 to 10 years from now. We have some ideas, but I don't think anything's formulated enough to hop on a podcast and dive into them, to be honest with you.
Well, I was going to lead into, kind of saying, for a lot of us, and one of the things I always learned, more recently than ever is about blocking my times, right? Is that by the time Sunday afternoon comes in there, I'm sitting down and trying to block out my week, even though it's the moving world. And as much as you want to block it out, hiccups come in all the time. Even this morning, we had a small hiccup. And it can change. But when you are a leader of multiple companies, how are you, Colby, organizing your week in a sense to make sure that you're blocking enough time for family, you're blocking enough time for each business, and blocking time for yourself?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's something I've really dove into a lot over the last few months. We've got some health issues going on in regards to my family. You and I have spoke on. We won't dive into those, but it's made me kind of sit back and realize, is this all worth it? Like all this time I'm putting in, and I would say put in more time than anybody I know on like my specific businesses. But definitely of late, I've figured out how to delegate a lot better. You got to delegate off to employees and not try and help on every task or micromanage, which I know I think like any business owner can be somewhat bad for micromanaging. And yeah, just figuring out what matters. What's mattered to me more than anything over the last bit is spending time with family, friends, and then also figuring out ways to better, I guess, look after my own health. So I don't think, though we have all these things going, and I guess another part of it would be I used to never be okay if I knew something wasn't operating at least like 90%. Right. Now I look at it and I see like, okay, 1 or 2 days a week, I can live with it operating at 70% so that I can live my personal life, or it just doesn't make me pull my hair out like it used to, right? Like everything's going to be okay. And I think the addition of the businesses has only helped me with that, because I can't take on everything. Like it kind of forced me to have to delegate, have to allow people to do their tasks, and hope they go perfect. And now it's about, again, like I was saying, proceduring and really helping those people out by making sure those tasks are complete, which will eventually just take stress off my shoulders as well.
So one of the big things that I see, because I follow Total Moving on social media, is you guys have, excuse me, you guys have really stepped up your game on, doing posts all the time, making some fun reels. That's one of the things that you involve yourself in a lot to make these reels happen. It gets good exposure and everything as well too. Is this something that you're also carrying over to the other two brands? Because you're only one person, even like today, you're wearing Total Moving. Sure, you're not wearing Globe. You're not wearing prayer containers. You might have to get a t-shirt made with all three logos that are all on here and do a turn this way and a turn that way. And exactly, right? Yeah. Exactly. But, when you think about it, it's a lot of work. Like when I look at myself, I also have Sam's Moving and Storage. I also have Premier Van Lines as a franchise in Vancouver. I also have the Movified Podcast. There's all of these different times and ways to delegate how you're going to do everything. But when it comes down to the social media aspect, it can get time consuming. Are you focusing on all three brands or also on Globe? Or are you trying to delegate someone to focus on that, to keep Globe up and running? Or do you find that most of your time is Total Moving?
Well, up to this point, most of my time has been Total Moving. And I think it's I've always been my identity has always been Total Moving's identity. I just bought in, and I think I could do a little bit of a better job of my personal promotion, not just for the one company, but how I promote myself to then better promote the businesses, if that makes sense. But I've always been very aligned with Total Moving. So for me to align with Globe, technically a competitive business, we do so many different things that I don't always see it that way. But in the local moving sphere, I guess they are competitors. It doesn't, to me, it wouldn't make sense. It's there's Colby pushing Total Moving.
Right.
and now he's the wise. It doesn't make sense. So we're really trying to find someone to take those reins within Globe itself. And then I guess another part to it is, I would say I believe in social media, and not just social media, but right now that's the outlet to which if you want to buy a shirt, the easiest way to do it, or you have all these ads that pop up on Facebook, Instagram, wherever, that promote you to buy it. And sometimes you just go do it, right? I feel the moving industry, though it's far away from it, will be the same thing. You'll be on TikTok and then there's a moving ad because you've been talking about how you're moving soon. And if you're not the business that's on top of that, making sure that ad's being seen as someone speaks about their moving by their moving date upcoming by their phone, then I think it's going to affect businesses that aren't on top of it. And so we're looking to fix that up. A thing that's kind of set that to the side for us a little bit of late is we're looking for a new marketing manager to take over. We decided we need somebody full time. We just had someone on a part-time basis before. So it's.
I was going to ask you about that because as a question, because I remember you talking in a group setting saying, "Oh, I have a marketing manager,
yes,
somebody that handles this and everything else as well too." And I've heard this with other moving companies that also aren't very large moving companies. They're probably between the 5 to 10 truck range of moving companies, but that is one of their hires now. When they're looking for people, it's I need to hire actually someone that does the marketing and side of things, especially when it comes to social media, which I find more interesting because most people are so consumed on saying, "Hey, I need a moving consultant," right? Let's get the sales. I need an operations. I need a dispatcher. I need an office manager. And when it comes down to marketing, most people always just outsourced it, right? They've always just found some company to manage it. And the more you see it, the more moving company owners are looking for now somebody that's handling their marketing full time, because I feel it's almost like a full-time gig. Someone to go out there, do the filming, go get photos, go do this, go do that. And it can get very time consuming and get lacking if you don't have someone that's doing it all the time.
Yeah, I lost you on the end there a little bit, Mark. Something with connection maybe, but
no worries. Yeah, I basically, I can still hear you. You should be okay. So I basically was chatting about the fact that it's so important now to be hiring a marketing manager, someone that is full time in the office that basically just goes out to film content. Like you need someone and then someone that's actually decent. I remember going to some like guys and going, hey, look, if you're on this job site, like just pull out your phone and, snap some photos and take some videos. And it's like, it's probably the most ridiculous thing to ever ask a bunch of movers, because half these guys are like pointing at the floor, it's all blurred photos coming back. And you're like, oh man, like this is brutal.
Yeah, I can dive in. I got most of what you're asking there. But yeah, no, we fully believe in it. We're fully invested in it. And another thing that like is great, Sean brings to the table with having the other businesses as well. He has a few out of the moving realm, is we can kind of hire a marketing manager now anyways to oversee multiple businesses and then keep it in-house. And we can kind of spread the costs a little bit, because you're in the moving industry. There's not always these crazy margins, especially while you're spending on the marketing to begin with to really build your brand. So that's a big benefit that we have, is that like we have a few other businesses that can divvy up some funds to have a marketing manager full time. And that's a transition we're going through right now, because I just had a friend of mine who was a couple day a week guy helping us out with it. And we tried to set something up where he came on full time. We couldn't make it work, unfortunately. And there was no hard feelings, but it just wasn't happening. And now we're on the hunt. We believe we have someone, and I think it'll be huge for our businesses, because it's not just the Instagrams, TikToks, and Facebooks. It's the ads behind those different social platforms. But then our marketing manager is also handling our Google ads, again, our local service ads, and then any kind of physical promotional pieces that we may be handing out, or digital that we're emailing the customers. So to me, it's an integral piece, and that's just my understanding of business. I don't understand how some run without some of these pieces. But I would say on the social media side of things, with Total Moving, it took about 2.5 years for us to really see like value in people saying, hey, you, like we've been watching your social medias for so long, and like we've grown a trust with your company and how honest you guys are, talking about if damages come up on a move, talking about just how we're going to pad wrap your items, or whatever the different topics are that we brought up. I've really only noticed it over the last year, I'd say, where people reference our social media, and there was a lot of work to put in to finally have people, I guess, turning to our business and actually hiring us because of it.
When it comes to your social media, are you focusing on targeted information? So when I had Travis Weathers from Rotate Digital on the show, we really talked about value content, right? Whether you're using ChatGPT or just trying to put out a post or trying to do anything, about really giving value on what type of content you're putting out there. Do you guys sit down and kind of look at like what our frequently asked questions are? Do you think, okay, well, I'm pretty sure this other moving company had the same content, but let's like do it a little bit better? I always find every time I start scrolling on Instagram and I'm seeing all the moving companies, I'm like, oh, I was going to post something like that, but they've already done it. And then am I just like copying them? Am I just doing the same thing? Like, because it's very redundant information a lot of the times. Do you guys sit down and try and put something together? Do you just go based off experience and going, hey, this is what came up from talking to one of the guys on the team? Like, how do you guys find the content that you guys want to put out?
Yeah, I mean, most of it's we'll sit down, and again, right now we're kind of without that marketing manager piece. So it's lots of just like what's coming up on the spot. Actually, credit to our movers with Total Moving. They're pretty good at taking out their cell phones and still getting us some content through this time of not having like a professional marketing manager with a camera shooting on site or an office here. So that helps. But the way we're coming up with content is we'd sit down. We normally designate half an hour to an hour on certain days, once or twice a month, and come up with our ideas for the month. What are we going to be focused on? Sometimes it's sporadic and just all over the place, and we do our Moving Monday segments, I like to call it. But yeah, it's we've never really copied content, because we didn't really have content-wise. We never had anybody that we were trying to emulate. We just said, let's go out, be honest about what we do. We're not perfect. Let's throw that out there, and let's just try and push our brand. And
it's worked.
It works pretty well. Yeah.
Yeah. No, for sure.
Now I see a lot of our stuff being copy some people would get mad about, but it's not that big of a deal. Like, then you just got to come up with newer, cooler ideas. And credit to the companies that are starting to push on social media. They're seeing it, and most of the ones that are the ones we want to grow with within the city. So it's awesome.
Now, what do you think? What do you think makes your company stand out?
The giant pink trucks we have.
Yeah, yeah, especially in Winnipeg, I can only imagine.
No, not just that. Of course, that helps now that we just made that marketing spend this year. So that was a big hit to take to our profits or anything like that. We put it all back into the business, which is great. People are seeing our actual brand on a moving logo now. But what makes our brand different, I think, is like we're the total moving wise. We're the young guy down the street coming to help you, and you see it in our movers. We know what we're doing. We've been around long enough that our staff are very qualified. They've all gone through the same training, and our guys that are our leads and at the top are top notch. But they're very approachable, friendly, and will have a full conversation with you to end the job. That sometimes I wish didn't go as long because it's not on the clock most of the time, right? But
of course,
that's the kind of movers that we hire, and I think it was a different feel from what people were used to with a moving company. So the actual service we provided, I think people it was a no-brainer for them to use us again if they had to, right? Because it wasn't just about, oh, there's that strong guy that doesn't say a word to me, is maybe a little sketchy or something. It was this young guy showing up, very approachable, very friendly. And yeah, I just think that worked well, and it aligned with the brand we were trying to build.
And do you try and align that brand a lot with like morning huddles, like with group meetings, the way you hire your staff? Like, is that something that you guys press on, saying like, this is the company culture, this is what we do? Or it's like, here's a t-shirt and get out there and, like, just don't fuck up. Like,
No.
What do you guys try and do when you're looking at new hires, when it comes to Total Moving?
Yeah, with Total Moving, it's, I think the culture is so instilled in our brand. And I was actually a little worried of late because we went through a big transition period with our movers specifically, where we lost like one lead to an injury, and then we had two other leads quit. And that's a scary time, right? When you're a 3-4 truck operation daily, like, you don't know if this culture that's being upheld, guys not showing up late, guys taking responsibility, coming to you for any damages first before, and not trying to like hide them or something, right?
Sure.
Unfortunately, that's a thing in the moving industry. We've never had that. But I got to give credit to our office staff and our ops manager here, and then the leads that are still with us from before the parting of the other ones, because they upheld the culture we had. It's a thing we push here. I know we're building a 20,000 square foot warehouse on our lot. So we'll be we'll have a warehouse aspect to our Total Moving brand as well. And like, we want on our walls our different slogans to be up there that like our employees know we're not
just like some fly-by-night moving company.
Yeah, fly-by-night moving company, but that we're community-oriented and just preach the messages that we want them to be preaching to our clientele every day.
And that also leads me to, like, on here, you guys work with, I think, the Toba Center and the Darcy Arc. Like, what made you guys look at giving back to the community? Was this something that was really something that you guys wanted to do right off the start? Was it like, okay, now we're established, let's give back to our community? Was this something that Sean already kind of had with his storage company? What, to me, I always think it's so important to give back to your communities, be out there and engaging. But, was there something that led you guys to want to have a couple of charities and work with them?
I think a big thing that's the start of this was like, I like to see dollar figures grow, right? It was the main thing. You're starting a business, you need to, or else it dies. And then it turned into seeing it almost sounds cliche, but it is true, but seeing the personal development of your staff and seeing your brand develop in the community as someone that people trust, but not just for their moving skills, because they're also benefiting your local charity and they actually care about that charity. We took on a lot right off the hop, and probably wasn't the greatest for our numbers to be doing free moves or sponsoring this event and that event. But I think in the last year, in regards to Total Moving especially, we've narrowed down our like main charities that we work with, being Make-A-Wish, Darcy's Ark, and then yes, Toba Center would probably be like our main three. And I think they just aligned with us well. They had great people at the top that we were happy to work with nonstop. It's never about personal benefit when working with the charity, but like they were aware that we were helping them, and it wasn't just like, oh, you helped us, see ya, we'll never talk to you again. They keep in great touch. So I think lots of the charities we work with and have stuck with partnering, it's not even about the charity, it's about the great people within it, and then doing great work for obviously great causes. Is almost, sounds weird to say second, but like it just comes with it, and it's a great part of it.
Yeah, no, for sure. Now, to kind of wrap things up, what would some tips that you'd recommend to like other guys in the moving industry to avoid burning out? Like if they're just like overworked, they're trying to expand too, they're getting their hands in the cookie jar on all kinds of different things. What's something that you would recommend to them to like just really avoid that burnout stage where they just end up being depleted and can't do it anymore?
Well, I think you need great people around you first. Like I've already referenced family, and like I've got a great girlfriend and whatnot, but like those people if you're going home and there's constant chaos at home to begin with, and you don't have that safe spot to go home and rest at, then the burnout's going to come even quicker. I think if you're really pushing yourself, burnout's almost inevitable.
Right.
I do believe in it. So for me, like you got to you got to have your time away. You have to have your designated time where you're going to put your phone down for even 4 hours sometimes on a Sunday, and like chill out, find the show you watch with your wife or girlfriend or spouse or whatever, and be able to do your own thing. That's, again, in the last year, that's been key for me, because it's crazy right now. There's lots going on, but you need to find those things that make you happy, your hobbies outside of work. I like playing hockey. I like my ultimate time. I love my time with my family, friends, and my girlfriend. Those are my three things that matter to me outside of work, and I hold them very tightly, and I think that's what everyone needs to do.
Perfect. In case she ends up listening to this podcast, at least you made reference to her, so she keep her happy. It's good.
There we go. I'd also recommend. I ran the Manitoba. I gotta hype myself up a little bit, but I ran the Manitoba Marathon yesterday.
Oh wow!
If you got a job, the full one, and if you got a job, don't go do that, because you can't move your legs for the next 3 days. Like I'm done right now. So it was the perfect time to do a podcast. I just got to sit down. Beautiful.
I love it. Timing worked out great. We do a lot of volunteering for the Rotary, and the Rotary does a ride for hearing where they raise money to help for people that can't afford hearing aids and all the technology that goes behind being able to hear, period. And they've done amazing work. And so we always volunteer our time, our trucks. We house all their stuff for the rides. And for the last couple of years, I've been like, cool, I'm doing it. Like 100 kilometers, which is probably, I don't know, what is that, like 60, 70 miles? Maybe something like that for the Americans listening, which probably doesn't sound like a lot, I guess. Maybe it does.
That's a lot.
But yeah, 100-kilometer ride on a bike, which is coming up next month. So I'm always looking forward to it, where I'm like, oh yeah, okay, my legs, I can't feel it anymore. So,
well, it's good. And I find a big thing for me is I've always had this like competitive spirit, which I think has helped me a lot in the entrepreneurial world and the business world. And I think people see it, and they're very like, I think they approve and they appreciate that I'm competitive, and maybe sometimes I think it can be a little over the top. But those things out of work, and where I'm going with this is, those things out of work help you maybe calm that down a little bit too. I'll always have that spirit for my businesses, but like the marathon was a nice thing to like. I didn't do the best training because I'm obviously lacking a little bit of time, but it was like, I need something to look forward to that like takes away a little bit of my competitive drive, because sometimes I can be a little over the top with that.
Right, but for sure.
Those things help.
So for anybody that is thinking about moving, I run into Colby in an elevator. I'm thinking about moving to Winnipeg. I don't even know how those words came out of my mouth, but but I run into you. I'm looking for a moving company. Give me that 45-second elevator pitch as we're riding that elevator together. And I see you in a Total Moving shirt, and I'm like, what do you do? I'm moving to Winnipeg. Go for it.
Yeah, I mean, we provide all the essentials, right? We're going to provide you your packing services, your moving services, any storage services you need. We obviously have all the different businesses to really assist with any of those needs, along with the fact, again, I touched on it earlier, but we're just meeting in the elevator now. We have great accountable staff that are actually going to show up, be approachable, be friendly with you, and they're strong enough to get the job done. Along with this, the tech side of things is where we dominate the moving industry in Winnipeg, I feel. So things are going to come quickly to you, efficiently to you, and they're going to be accurate. Your estimates, are going to be accurate on move day. I think it's a no-brainer. You got to go with Total Moving or Glow. It's the way to move in Manitoba.
No-brainer. I like it. Awesome. Cool, Colby. Well, thanks so much for joining us today on Movified. For all those that are listening, you can check us out on YouTube to watch the video. You can also hear us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all sorts of RSS feeds, but you also can check us out on Movified.ca as well too if you just want to go straight to our website. We're happy to have you visit us and check out all the blogs and more moving information that's out there as well too. Thank you, Colby. It's been a pleasure to kind of get to know you and your business. For anybody that is moving out in Manitoba, definitely check out Total Moving. If you aren't, I still recommend. You'll see a link to their website for their multiple businesses as well too in the upcoming feeds. But check them out, and I would definitely be following these guys on Instagram. They are a showstopper for a lot of the reels that they do. It's some funny points, and it's always super informative. And I appreciate being on the show today.
Cheers, my friend.
Hi, I'm Mark Hirschi with Salmon's Moving and Storage. Today, I want to talk about tying up training. Why? Because this is Netflix grade quality training. It's not those old videos and VHSs that you got hiding in your office somewhere. It's online, it's easy to use, they're short videos, but they get to the point. My new employees, these guys run through these training programs, there's tests at the end, and they're coming out going, oh, I'm ready to rock. So if you haven't checked out Tying Up Training yet, get a demo done. Get on board. Guess what else is there? Online portals for my sales staff. Can you believe it? These guys can learn how to overcome objections and book more leads today. So what are you waiting for? Go check out Tying Up Training today.